me to run up to the office and grab a Diet Coke so you can be late. We have, our office is on the 10th floor in the corner, and literally there's no one in there right now. And we have this one nasty refrigerator. And I can't tell you how many bottles of bleach and disinfectant we put into this thing, and it's still like, it still reeks.
Did it like turn off when you had stuff in it or something?
Well, people just left their stuff in it for like years.
It just progressively got disgusting.
Yeah, and I think we found the source of the problem was the condenser tray. Apparently someone had meat in there, and it somehow leaked into the condenser tray, so there's like sludge and all sorts of nasty stuff in there.
Is it a mini fridge?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a medium fridge. It's not like a mini fridge, not small, but it's about that tall. And we're just thinking about buying a new one. It's getting ridiculous. We're spending more money on cleaning solution than we are on a refrigerator.
Yeah, the total amount you bought bleach, you could have put into a new condenser or a new refrigerator.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this class?
I hate it. And I'm about to go in and tell him like straight to his face, I don't understand any concepts you say, and chances are I'll never use any of this stuff. I mean, he appreciates honesty, so I don't know how well he'll take it, but I'm sure he'll appreciate me being honest. Yeah, so
I watched all of Friday's material online. I wasn't here. It is so difficult to follow.
yeah, well, part of the reason is he kind of goes on segues and then trying to prove a point, and then you don't know what he's trying to prove. That's the biggest issue I have. But yeah, this class has just been like a marathon class. So I mean, it's very difficult. 3 different semesters. This is 3 different.
Into one small.
Summer session too. At that, it's ridiculous. Too much material.
Did you do alright in the first 2 modules?
Yeah, I did okay. Like I think I got like a B on that geology exam was pretty hefty, and then Chester's exam even lower. So I think I'm looking at like a B.
Look, it's not Thomas. Of course I'm looking at a B. Blasingame wouldn't give you anything else. Wouldn't give any of us anything else, actually.
So why should I take this course? Like, I need A's to get jobs, because apparently B's don't impress companies that much.
Look, you're doing drilling. You'll get a job, period.
I wouldn't rely on that too much.
If you get a degree, you'll get a job, period.
But it might not be the job that I want. I have an ideal job in mind, but my chances of getting that are slowly decreasing as I take more and more reservoir classes.
Stop taking reservoir.
Well, I don't know. I'm taking natural frac. I think it's kind of cool. But I might take...
Look, man, your grade gets you your first job. You don't have to... Like, there are ways to go off into a different track. They'd rather hire you with a year's worth of experience for your ideal job than some crazy little kid straight out of school.
Yeah.
Look,
You're probably right.
Yeah, you'll get your ideal job as long as freaking China and India don't collapse and then the oil market goes and our economy tanks with them. Look, man, as long as the world economy keeps on growing, and as long as fusion is a hoax, solar is bullshit, and wind is still wind, as in the wind has
Wind blows.
Yeah, as long as wind is still wind, you're gonna have a job. He's not even listening.
You do realize that fusion's almost been 10 to 15 years away ever since.
Yeah, so like, look, national ignition labs, they're not NIL, they actually did have a chance, but I read they used an engineering approach instead of a scientific approach. Like the hydrogen body glass, the collapse that they could, induce by their lasers was non-uniform, so like a lot of energy was dissipated and the collapse was not strong. Yeah, no, it's not that it couldn't contain energy, it was that the collapse was just not proper. And instead of like trying to fix it at lower energy, they kept on like messing around with lasers at the highest energy level they could. So they treated it like an engineering project instead of a science project. They had full funding for 3 years, that was 2012, but Obama cut that shit because they have no results.
You do realize you're being recorded?
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh. Why are you so sensitive about language? Oh, Southern gentlemen stuff? Yeah, yeah.
No, it's mostly, not wanting to be sued stuff.
There are no kids listening.
This goes out on the public internet.
Right.
Not too much light either way, or?
Legally, only the people who paid are the ones who are supposed to.
Legally, it's fine, but realistically, other people get access to it. Stupid guy with the phone. No tengo anillo.
Oh, you can't hear.
The collapse was not correct. It kept on like having non-uniform deformities, and like the French reactor, the ICNR or something.
We take a break,
International
we'll
reactor
try
in
that.
France.
That comes here.
And then there's another.
Oh, you can also buy it.
Can you use the USB on this device?
No, well, you can connect it with the, you can also put like a SD card.
Like, especially a lot of MIT is supposed to enable, like, theoretically, France to have, testing.
Everything's being.
Like,
Decide to cover up your wound.
it's good for me.
Yeah, we need to kind of
concentrate.
What happened to you, son? You saw the bicycle?
Really bad.
When was that?
It's hard.
You look like you need 20 hours of sleep.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm walking. You were wearing
like,
sleeping
this
on
is fourth generation.
Are you depressed?
That's probably why I got it. Where did you?
I mean, like,
Blood sugar.
university.
Your blood check.
My blood pressure is no guarantee that I can figure out gas vitamins and stuff like that.
I believe it.
That guy Ron?
No one ran into me. It was actually more a mixture between my fault and fuck rate.
Too much weight.
During class, he's engineering now, so you're just safe bet.
Do we know if Omar's gonna show? I guess so.
Yeah, he called me and said, hey, get a good our stash up the office.
Why was the lecture time starting from 8 p.m.?
Tomorrow night? I have two things tomorrow. I have an SDE webinar tomorrow in the morning, and I have a conference in the afternoon in Houston. I have to make a presentation.
So that means we're still having the afternoon classes?
Yes, I'll leave from here, go there, come back. There's enough time. Trust me, you know, my days of lingering around are over. I'm gonna go do my thing.
Yeah, I know, that's not that big of a deal, but.
All right, I think we're ready to start.
Yeah, I know.
Let me, orient you very quickly as to, how we'll proceed. So, this is a discussion about the 4-day Green Garden, type curve, and what I would like to do, snipping tool.
I was waiting for you.
Okay.
I was waiting for you.
Okay, so one of the things that you're gonna learn how to do tonight is to use the snipping tool to, do your type curve analysis. Let me see. Mark, you look pretty, flexible. I'm gonna use I used to Venezuelan. This is because Dr. McCain touched them, I guess. I only see evil now. Alright. These are $4 glasses. Okay, so what I was saying about the snipping tool, we'll come in and we'll cut a copy of this guy and we'll take him to PowerPoint land. And we'll place them in here. And we will save them for later. Okay, so we're just going to leave them there for now. Okay? So we can come back to the Adobe file. And again, we were talking about things here. This function is related to the Wellbore storage coefficient, so it'll be T over CS in the end. And this function is going to be PD, which is going to be delta P, and there will be a permeability term in here. There will be a multiplier, or you can call it a delta P characteristic. And delta P characteristic is going to be a function of permeability. So we'll use that. There's some calculations we'll go over in a minute. The family parameter over here is CD e to the 2s. And again, we'll talk about how to use that later on. Sorry this isn't in color, but the red curve is the pressure drop curve. Sorry, this is terrible coordination. So that's that particular curve, and then its companion is this blue one. I know this isn't the last one on the list yet. So what would happen is we would come in here and we would take a data set and we would put it over this piece of paper. A lot of people are going to talk to you about type curves, and those of you, I guess nobody's practiced in here, but industry people call things type curves when they're average curves. You'll hear that a lot. It has nothing to do with this. They'll take a group of data, time-dependent data, and here I'll draw a picture of it. This is a very common practice. This is not what we're doing right now. It'll be more about what we're going to do in the next couple of lectures. But let's say that we have a graphic like this, and then we have, I'll just say Y versus X, and then we have the first Y curve, and then the next Y curve, and then the next Y curve, and then what happens if somebody comes along and they do an average, and that average comes in, I'm drawing this highly idealized, obviously, okay. So this blue one is the average, and that's often called a type curve. Unfortunately, that gets confused with the real type curve that we're using here. So I tend to call these statistical curves. Just if we ever talk about this in practice, it's a statistical curve. But this is not a type curve that we will be talking about. This is not a PTA type curve.
Does the word type curve have a technical definition there?
It came, as best I know, from chemical engineering with things like the Moody friction factor diagram. So you have a dimensionless pressure drop versus dimensionless velocity type term. I know know there's a bunch of other variables in there, but for the sake of argument, friction factor is pressure drop, and Reynolds number is mostly related to velocity. So I think that's where it came from. The first term in type curve probably in the petroleum literature probably came from Rainey, and I don't know that, but I know that he brought in the concept of type curves from chemical engineering. All right, I will turn off Smart Ink, and I guess that's the end of that. Go back.
CD, did I mention like Wellbore storage
It
coefficient?
is the CD is the dimensionless Wellbore storage coefficient.
CS over some.
CS is, it would be CS over CS characteristic, if you want to think about it that way, sort of chemical engineering literature. There are equations for all of this, and they'll be covered in the notes. Again, I probably should have all these definitions handy. I do apologize for that. I don't want to write them out because I'll be wrong. I can tell you, for example, that PD is equal to 141.2 QB mu over KH. Wrong. It's 1 over that delta P. So I just need to make sure that I'm looking at the right thing when I do this. That's why I don't want to do it that way. Okay. All right. So let's just jump right in. This is out of the Lee textbook. This is his example. And what I'm going to do with this case is I'm going to copy and paste it over on the other page. Now, this is the actual pressure drop function, and this is the actual shut-in time function here. All right, does everybody follow that? Okay. This is a simulated case in a sense. It's not simulated literally. He took it from a graph. He created these values from a chart of numbers. It's a long story. It was 1980 something. He didn't have access to a simulator to generate this, so he took it from a set of data. This is probably the most analyzed data case in history, and it's synthetic. It looks real, but it's not. He read them off a graph. He read them off a type curve. And when he put the boundary effects on, I'm not exactly sure how he did that, so we have to really be careful how we analyze this. This all stemmed from a conversation that he and I had one day, and I was just, my jaw dropped because he told me the whole thing was made up, but we'll leave that alone. I probably shouldn't have told you. I'm sure you're all a lot happier now knowing it. Okay, so I'm going to come over here. Grab this. All right, I've got that. Chunky Daddy. And we're going to paste it and put it on top of here. I might get this. All right, so this one's on top. And the first thing you're going to notice is it's the wrong scale, so we'll have to reduce it and make it exactly the same scale as the other one's been. This is your thingy, so it needs to be in what mode? Neither one of these, I suspect. Okay, so where's the color?
What kind?
You turned off Microsoft Ink.
No, it's under,
What are we trying to do?
I want to do transparency. Do you guys know where that is?
I think you have to select whatever you want to make transparent.
Yeah, I know that, but,
Picture tools is on that. That's the left tab.
Animation.
Picture tools.
Format.
You have selected number format.
yeah, it's under here, sorry. Set transparent color. I'm going to pin this to the taskbar. Okay, so it's now up here. What you do is you click on the graph, and then you click Thank you, Jeffrey. You made my day. I taught you something you didn't already know.
You always do.
I live to see you learn.
Thank you.
Not burn, but learn. I'm gonna have to guess. I hope I can make this the right side. The squares are supposed to be the same size. What's happening in the world today? Lie to me and tell me something. Okay, unfortunately, these two are not the same size.
You have aspect ratio locked.
I know, it should be, because they both should be square.
Correct.
So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna unlock the aspect ratio, and
The width.
I'm gonna make the width slightly smaller. Actually, how close is that? Think that's close enough? Whatever I give you will be spot on. Okay, so we wanna come over here, and we wanna match this data set. So there's an approximate match. And, everybody okay? Somebody having a gas? Okay. Alright, so come over here, and what is it, curve? Yeah. So Neil, if we get to know you really well, will you tell us the secret right handshake?
I don't know if I know that. I don't know if I know that.
If you're allowed?
He doesn't know anything.
I don't think I know that.
Right, handshake.
He's just being, he's just dodging it.
Yeah.
He has to know it, they wouldn't let him out otherwise. What's your favorite color, Jim?
Red.
Good, you're coming, alright. So there's that one, okay? And then we gotta do the derivative.
Well.
Sam, number one. Tell me something I didn't know about China.
Do you know there's a day in the summer where everyone in the country splash water all over each other? Literally.
Yeah, I'm thinking about how I'm gonna apply. I'm thinking that, I probably need to keep my mouth shut.
You don't have to select it.
Yes, I know, thank you. That's the right one, right?
You don't have to select
Shut up. Ah!
Control.
No.
I got it, girlfriend. Why me, Lord? What's your favorite color? Dennis?
Green.
I would have guessed that. Okay, I'm not quite done yet, but I just wanted to show you that I traced the curves on top of each other.
Will we have enough time to do this during the test?
What did I tell you in the email? What were my exact words?
Don't try to influence you either way.
Thank you. I can assure you I have plenty of time. Plenty of time. Except maybe in your case. Because you're gonna be typing with your toes. Alright, so that's the first part, was putting the curves on it. I'm not done. But, do you guys sort of follow this?
So this is the diagnostic plot or something?
Well, this is diagnostic plot, but I used it, put it on top, and matched it. So the first thing we would have done is diagnostics, that's correct. But I just wanted to jump over and show you how to do this. Alright? Now, the thing is you have to have a match point. What's a match point? A match point is anywhere that lies inside the coordinate system of both graphs. Alright? So the outer graph is one coordinate system, the inner graph is another coordinate system. They have to be on top of each other, and you have to read the match point from inside of here. What's your favorite match point as a rice graph?
Left-hand corner, yours,
Okay. What about 1 and 1? Now, 1 and 1 may not always work, but let's see if we can make it work. What's your favorite color, Neil? Blue. You make it so easy to be blue. Alright, so we come in here. You know, what's the stupidest thing you've ever done besides try to take me on?
I went to dental school for a little over a year. It's probably not a good fit for me as
Okay.
an engineer.
Different to what school?
Dental school.
Jeffrey needs to have a second career.
Oh, my.
Why did you leave dental school? I mean, it's personal and all, but we got plenty of time here.
It was a little bit more artistic than I imagined coming in.
Artistic.
Yeah.
What, how to bill people for dentures?
How to make the dentures.
Alright, so I've got it on 1 and 1. So the pressure drop, the dimensional pressure drop here, PD is 1, and the PD over CD is 1, right? This point right here is the point we want as our match point. Okay? Don't you think I'm creative? I mean, I'm a little more artistic than you expected. Is that what you were going to say? I couldn't really guess. I was just hoping. I need to make it transparent. What's your emotional age, Jeffrey? 10? I bet I get an email on that one. Dennis, what would you say my emotional age is? About 14?
Slightly older, maybe 16.
I don't think so. I prefer where I am, not where you want me to be. Alright, so now I need to punch this puppy up. Touch that, touch that, touch that. Did I already get all these? Yeah. Okay, so there's my total analysis. So my match point is here at about 0.0123452.
Okay.
Is that okay? So we come up here and get this. And they rubbed all the letters off this keyboard.
So, the values at the match point is your characteristic value?
Correct. This one's 1, right? I'm thinking. Stop annoying me, Jeffrey. You hate me, don't you? That's torture. It's my favorite thing. Okay, 0.052 hours. By the way, somebody submitted their assignment today for my other class, and they neglected to use the proper TOM format for their, I can't believe I did that, for their submission. Dennis, do you remember that?
I remember that.
Sorry?
I remember all the details in there.
So you won't have a problem with that?
I don't think so.
It's a wonderful moment for me anyway. I'm getting there, Ace. So let me have a little quiet time here, be with my homies, go to a good place. What happened to all my hard effort on formatting here?
Change the font on it.
Shut up. You think I don't know my fault? Better be nice then, sure. I'll tell Dr. Nutshell then you're not being a good boy. I already told him on you, Jeff. Don't worry.
He knows I'm not the one.
He mentioned that. How do you make it shrink to fit?
I think it's wrap text, right?
Yeah, but
Wrap box. Like, kind of like wrap text.
Oh,
wrap
Do
yeah.
you have
Thank
some
you,
kind of
Martin.
space behind your text actually?
oh yeah, thank you. You're a good fella. I might just let you live. What's your favorite color, Jeffrey?
Red,
Wrong.
purple,
Oh,
yellow.
yellow. Okay, so what I'm doing is we forced it on CD over CD of 1, and then that looks like 0.02, 3, 4, 5, right?
Yep.
All right, what's the next one?
P.
Okay, so that's PD. Jeffrey, would you mind telling us what the stupidest thing you've ever done was?
Say no to the hardest girl at school asking me out to homecoming dance.
I'm not really one to judge, but that sounds highly unlikely. Well, it's not my daughter. It's okay. Oh, there's always another time. There's always another one.
I was really shocked when she asked.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,
58, 9, 58.
58. I mean, how did you go about it?
I'll tell you later.
Okay, sounds pretty fishy to me. I believe you though. You wouldn't lie to me without a good reason, I'm sure. Dennis wouldn't lie to me at all. All right?
That's the kid.
And what's our CDE to the US family, 10 to the 10? See, I'm doing your test for you now, or exam, or exercise, or assignment.
Examination device. Evaluation device. Evaluation mechanism.
So Dennis, you never told us what the stupidest thing you ever did was.
I did too many stupid things.
What was it?
I liked using the front handbrakes when going down hills when I was younger on a bike.
And you still got all your teeth?
Surprisingly, yeah.
So what's wrong with that? I think it shows a certain amount of initiative. I'm listening. Numbers should never be italicized. There's no such thing as an italic number. I didn't say there's no such thing as an Italian number.
Yeah, they don't believe in numbers.
Are you sure you want to be a nice plus median? Okay.
How do you know it's 100?
Under what?
CDE.
10 to the 10. It's right here. That red line is over there.
Oh,
Or is it? Oh, it's 10 to 15. Sorry.
My mistake.
You can't do that on your evaluation exercise. It must be perfect.
how?
I grade partial credits like Dr. McCain.
Oh.
What does that mean?
This means
No,
not credit at all.
Wait, where do we find you?
Right here. Use your bionic vision.
10 to 10, 10 to 10.
Oh man, did I just do that?
That's good.
Annoying, isn't it?
How did you project a curve without the computer? Like on it's on paper?
I don't think you're going to be able to do it without a computer. I mean, there is a way, there's a movie online. I'll show you in a second.
Oh, right there, okay.
No, it's 10 to 15. That one's 10 to 10.
No, that one is 10 to the 15th, but it looks like it's going to 10 to the 10th instead of.
It is, it's 10 to the 15. I made the curve, it's mine. I know it. Okay? You like that? I'm very good at that. That's one of my fault.
For the x-axis, you actually have two characteristic values for one.
For the what?
You got CD over CD for the x.
Right, and we'll have to resolve that later in the calculation. PD over CD is the dimensional function on the x-axis, PD is the dimensional function on the y. Delta P is the real variable, delta T is the real variable. They're basically done.
But then we have to interpret this, right?
No, we have to make the calculation. We actually skip the step as, like Venezuelan friend pointed out.
So you use the y to calculate the permeability, the x to
You
find
use delta P, PD over delta P to calculate the permeability, and you use the TD over CD over delta T to calculate the source coefficient.
and the
And
third
then
one
CD,
is
either the 2S is used, you reverse calculate the S.
once you get the CD, you can find the skin.
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
No, he was, sorry, looking at you answering that. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so there is a movie online that shows how to do this. By the way, at the risk of Mr. Gates doing something to me I hate being, so.
So that's only for radio flow?
Sorry?
Just only for radio flow?
This particular type curve is, yes.
And how do you do the boundary check?
Okay, again, we'll cross one step at a time.
Okay.
That's a good looking guy. Okay, here we go. This thing's big, I believe. So what were you telling us you did again, Dennis?
When going downhill while riding a bike, I like to use the front hand brake.
Right.
Yeah.
And then,
It was fun when I was in the air, it wasn't so fun when I hit the ground.
I can see that.
Extract all.
Thank you, drive through. Is this gonna play on here?
Yeah, it should.
Right.
Oh, it should have thumbnail, it should.
Hey, look, it's the same Blasingame hat. We can tell because of the rain.
You have the same shirt.
I don't want it to play quick now, I want it to play. Okay, so that's the limit behind you there. And there's the graph. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate the concept of a side curve match using paper. As you can see, I put the side curve, which is the basis, on the window so it's backlit. And then I take the data curve, which is slide on exactly the same gridding, not the same scale, of course, because this is dimensional axis and this is dimensional axis. So we're going to overlay and make certain first that our side curve and our data curve are the same gridding spacing. And you can see that they're more or less are. These are perfectly aligned. Like that, you can see that the grid lines behind each other are aligned. That means they're the same size. Please check that first, make sure you're. That's what we did with, I'm setting on top of it, make sure it was right. Changing the orientation. The next one will be perfect. Exactly perpendicular with the data curve. So the video is kind of crooked, or I was kind of crooked on the glass, but I made sure it was perfectly straight here. You cannot be at an angle, it has to be square.
Orthogonal.
Orthogonal, thank you. Every time you correct me, you're going to get the taste of the eraser. I think the Greeks are in favor of that.
We might need a lamp.
And for those of you who are curious, I am wearing the same shirt that day.
Yeah. You have the same shirt.
Same glasses too.
No, those are my other glasses.
Different glasses, the same shirt.
So the glasses at H-E-B are this style and Harry Potter for $4 I bought 2 pair of each. So then I put a tape on it.
Yeah.
And you can use the window backlit space for this. The first thing you'll do is you'll come in and decide on your match point. In my case, I always choose 1, 1. If you're looking behind, 1 is here, 1 is there. So we'll go ahead and identify the match point. I think I was an idiot. Get your head out of the way. Turn the lines over. We'll label this in a minute. Everybody got the hang of it? So I can stop, or do you want to just let it run through?
For the one that is, the model curve, that's what we'll give it.
Yeah, we're using the model coordinates of 1 to 1. It can be anything, and you better make sure that 1 to 1 is inside the other graph. If it's not, then you need to choose another point.
1 1 in the border graph. It's 1 1 in the border graph.
Sorry?
It's one in the back graph, right?
No, it's 1-to-1 on the dimensionless plot, so you're correct, it's on the back.
Full curve.
And make sure you think about it, it's on the type curve.
Okay.
And again, you see here, the scales are a little bit differently, that this graph is not completely inside of that one. Anywhere they overlap is fair game. But if they don't overlap, use your head, it's because when they're not overlapping, you don't have the grid on it. But imagine in Excel, you got two different graphs and you want to overlay them onto each other. How are you going to do it? You're going to have to translate the coordinates. You have to divide the x-axis by a factor, and you divide the y-axis by a factor, and you'll overlay it.
Until you get them to overlay.
I'm a little confused on how you know which line to pick.
Oh, that's a toughie. I'll go through this one again from scratch. It's gonna bore the hell out of people at home, but, they're not here, so.
I thought you said you pick first on the P prime, delta P prime.
It's a balance, but you generally orient off of delta P prime, that's correct.
So if your 1-1 is not in your boundary, where?
Just pick anything, it's any pair. Imagine that you have a pen, like a needle, or a push pin. Anywhere inside of this, where the two graphs overlay, just push a pin and read the coordinates off of there.
Okay.
So imagine that you have a mental, push pin, you push through both pieces of paper, you read the coordinates of the hole on both pieces of paper, you're done. It does not have to be 1-to-1. We just choose 1-to-1 because it's easy. But that was how I used to teach it, is I just, pin the tail of my dog, pop a hole in it, and then read where the hole is. Cannot make a mistake. It's impossible to make mistakes if you think about it that way. Go ahead.
To use this graph, you have to know in advance that you have radial flow, right?
Okay, again, this is like the 14th time you've asked.
Because I don't know what.
Okay, Baracho, I'll get there.
But what I'm saying is because sometimes in the field you might have to adjust data.
It's Johannes, right?
Johannes, yeah.
Yeah. So for the rest of the night, your name is Jeffrey 2.
Don't say it.
So every time you open your mouth, I'm going to call you J2. No, okay, then Jeffrey 2. And maybe you could even look like him. Actually, the more I look at you two, all right, end of movie. Yes.
If we
Whoa, did I get a mulligan? I got a mulligan from Jeffrey. Thank you, God. A do-over. He just completely flubbed. Okay, excellent. So from now on, I get to use that. That's my get-out-of-jail-free card.
what?
When you ask me something I don't want to answer, I'll just go, forget it. Thank you, Jeffrey. All right. Okay, so you want to start from scratch, right? Okay, so go back to the type curve. Our good friend, Mr. Snippet. And grab this. And like I say, I'm not sure why these graphs are not the same size. I know why, because these are old nodes, blah, 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 but somehow in the fooling around part, one of them got stretched. Which one, I don't know. To my eyes, this does not look exactly square, but I could be wrong. Okay, we come back to here. I'll plant my biscuits right here.
Excel has a grid function. Excel has turn on the grid
Excel
function.
has a grid function.
Like, it's not on Dennis's computer, but on your program you have it on. Like for the grid.
Yeah. For one thing, we're not in Excel.
No, no, PowerPoint.
Yes, I know. I'm just torturing you now. Did you ever watch The Fifth Element?
Yeah.
You're either going to be Jeffrey or Ruby Rod. Which one would you like to be? You're completely stoned. I can't believe it.
inspector on the site.
Gotta be green, green, green!
Oh, him, I don't wanna be him.
And I do want you to be in. I think Sam just voted for all of it. You wanna come up here and do it, Sam? No, the other Sam.
Yeah, I don't like you.
No, I'm good, I wanna do it.
You want me? Sit down.
I wanna do it.
I know you want to, but now that you've, shown your invincible. All
No,
right,
I mean, I figured it out before.
what do I do now?
Try and make it transparent.
Make it transparent.
Transparent, more than me,
The square should be equal size.
squares aren't right size.
I believe we're doing 70 and 70.
Well, it may have changed because I'm not exactly precisely sure. I've also got a little angle problem here. But like I said, the stuff that I give you will be perfect. Or as the country song said, Jeffrey, close enough to perfect for me.
Good enough for government work.
You think you'd work for the government? I mean, I'm just curious. I mean,
Little,
we don't really know each other that well, but I'm assuming not.
little small.
It's a job.
I think I'm just gonna leave it at 0 if that's okay with everybody. That didn't work. That makes it too small?
Yeah.
Shut up. There's nothing but trouble. Everybody's a critic.
Whoa.
What's going on?
Okay.
Don't move, right? All right.
Line up the,
Understand too. Okay, just do Control V. When you do it wrong, I'm gonna comb your hair with Jeffrey.
I'll do that. I like mine.
Do Control V.
I like mine.
Okay. You move the mouse with the keys, I recommend the keys. Okay. First of all, you want to push up against that side. You did. You got a line here that we drew through that Johannes was mentioning, or sorry, J2 was mentioning. So you can go ahead and shove that up against that. Daniel, where do you want to put the data? Even though this needs to be horizontal. You use the control key to make smaller motions.
Yeah.
Come down to here. Ah, you're okay.
Okay, so you
no,
mentioned
you're fine, that's
you
perfect.
mentioned radial flow.
Yeah, that's permeability. The solid line here is your orientation to permeability. That's what Johannes keeps talking about. You have to match that. If you don't match that, you're not gonna get a permeability up. Okay? If there's no data to touch that, you do not get a consistent permeability. And I will not give you the Bourdain case, which doesn't touch this. That was not the very paper that they produced to show this, and it has an inconsistency in it. Anybody want to guess what the inconsistency is?
what point is that? There's no point over there.
They flowed the well for 1 unit at a time and shut it in for 2 units at a time. And it really goofed what I was trying to tell you before. It can be corrected, but it's not a perfect correction. You have to know the history exactly in order to do that. But if this data did not align here, then we're out of business. We can do a half match or that sort of thing, but it's gonna be non-unique.
Exactly there?
No, it has to, if there's not data lying on the flat portion, it's not gonna happen.
Right, so for all radial flow.
For radial flow, you must have round dots laying on black lines. How's that?
For this one, you enter the boundary flow pretty quickly.
Okay, for the sake of argument, there is boundary data on here, but this is not gonna happen in real life. Remember the real world with Gary Coleman? Webster, not he was Webster, he was, whatever. Yes,
Okay, so
J1.
the dimensionalization of, the non-dimensionalization of these
Are you
functions.
thinking while you're talking again?
The non-dimensionalizing of these functions makes it so that every single radial foot case collapses to that one line.
Yes.
Wow,
Because
I'm impressed.
we did this earlier today, that's an identity.
Okay.
All cases, the derivative of the logarithm, all cases are 1 over t.
Right.
In our case, it was 1/2 times 1 over t. We multiply by t, we get 1/2. They're always going to be 1/2. Okay? However, you may not have sufficient duration of data to get here. All right, do you know how to use the curve?
That?
The tool up top, the squiggle, not the squiggle, but the other thing.
How do you test the utility in
So come down here, click, click, and then trace it out. And I do, whenever you do this, I do insist that you trace out your curves. I insist. Let me repeat that. You don't do it, you don't get paid. And of course, when you present this to me, you're going to remove the type curve. You can have 2 graphs, or 2 pages. You can have one where you have this, which would be good, and then I want you to present one without it, like you see over in slide 2. Okay? Yes.
So software lets us do this, right? Like they didn't take this out. They let us non-dimensionalize everything, and they
Oh, yeah.
let us see this.
Yes.
That's good. I like it.
What do you mean, when you say in real life?
Louder.
What do you mean in real life that we don't have these boundary effect points, like in real data?
We'll go over that in a minute. I don't have a problem with answering the question directly, but it is very, very unlikely that you're going to see a result that has boundary effects this quickly. And I don't remember exactly precisely what the permeability is for this. I know I'm making myself look like an idiot because I'm scrunching my face up. I think it's 60 millidarcies. It's probably on the next page or so, but whatever it is, it's fairly high. So, you know, you're seeing boundary effects after about a month, which is, you know, nobody's going to shut in their well that long. Okay, yellow, something more bold.
Yeah, communism. Or the color of your state, red. Deep red. Yeah, deep red. It's like you look at the political map of the United States, geographically, it looks like a communist revolution.
Dennis, tomorrow, could you bring a couple of pairs of old socks?
Oh, yeah.
Don't eat tomorrow, Jim.
I couldn't find my duct tape, I could
A
only
little
find,
bit. Sorry?
I couldn't find my duct tape, I could only find sandpaper.
Keep going along the line there, Rainbow. All right, that's fine.
Oh, yeah.
That's all right, just leave it there. Stop. Oh, you're gonna change color? Okay. Are you colorblind?
Nope.
Why are you making both yellow? Oh, one green.
One's green.
What?
He's only yellow.
I don't remember asking him to make it yellow, but
You did not. I heard that.
Either way, I think it probably needs to be a bit more of a bold color, like red,
Yeah.
and they shouldn't be the same color. I bet it'd be really nice of me to share this PowerPoint with you guys. What's in it for me?
Zip.
You can buy your pizza.
Yeah. I told my wife, I said, I finally found somebody who spends money worse than you do. All right, that looks good. Are you comfortable that you can put lines and stuff on it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then your one spot.
And great. Do you understand, or do you want to do it here?
No, I understand.
Do you really understand, or are you just saying you understand?
I understand well enough to do it now.
Okay, so what would happen if you were not in the 1-1 domain?
Then you would just pick a random point that's
Okay,
within
but
the two
within both grids, it has to be within
Right.
both grids. And if, like, the other one is off to the side, you're gonna have to pick an area that's covered by both, and mentally poke a hole in it.
What is the delta T, right? It's a delta
Louder?
T. It's a delta T, the one that you have to choose 2 points, right?
No, we're using PD and TD over CD here. So PD of 1 and TD over CD of 1, read up, it does fall within this box. And then you read off of there. Is that what you're saying?
No,
Sorry.
it's tough, if you stop that point, if you
Louder.
have to choose another, if you
My
have to
phone
choose
is-
another point, it's gonna be a delta T, it's gonna be just 1 point.
No, you have to, you can choose 10 and 1, you can choose 100 and 1,
Okay.
you can choose 73 and 7, you can choose whatever you want, but you have to record them. So don't walk into this thinking that it's always gonna be 1-to-1. It may work out fine that way, but you need to record the point. You need to do exactly what I've done here, you know, which is mark these like that.
Technically, we did on the same thing, so this bottom one should come out the same as the top one, in terms of 1-to-1 being this.
If he was exactly precisely where I was, yeah, but if he wasn't, it could be slightly off, maybe. You know, this is why I'm not gonna grade to the 7th decimal place. If you're off by, let's say, 5 or 10 PSI, you know, I can't tell the difference. If you're off by 0.01 out, I can't tell the difference. The numbers will be different, but, you know, 10 PSI is the width of those lines, well, sort of. Everybody okay?
Small mistake could result in law scale or.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that as long as you document it and I can see this, I'm okay. But let's say that you make a mistake, like a Dr. McCain mistake, and you write 0.52 hours when it's really 0.052 hours. And I gotta say something. Maybe an arm, leg, ear, something, you know? Dennis, you look like you've had enough. You ready for what?
The next slide.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad I can be of service. May I say this?
Sure.
What's today's date? 2013-07-29. What is this?
Graphing
Example, CC, plot, match, lead, example 2.2. Who did it? You guys think I'm OCD?
Very good. You know exactly what it is by looking at the title.
What do I do? PPT.tpt.
Airplane, I don't know.
Hmm?
What but one of those computer settings where it doesn't show the file extension.
No, because whenever I zip things, I always make a backup and drop it in a junk folder or an archive folder, so there's always an extra copy, so I know what the file is. I'm, how you say, paranoid. Sure, have you ever been paranoid? Probably should be. Yeah, let's take a momentary break and ask ourselves, we all understand where we are and how we got there? Sam, you okay? Sam too? Jay too?
This point is always in the lower storage area.
Louder.
The point, that CD point,
It just happens to be where we pick it. You can pick it anywhere you want. You can pick it in the upper corner, wherever the two graphs overlap, you can pick wherever you want. Drillers, how we doing? Sorry, Schubert Jr. You know what the students used to call him, right? Shuby. So you're Shuby 1 and Shuby 2. You like that?
Who's one and who's two?
What the hell, you'd be interchangeable. Yes.
The ultimate goal is to get your CD and then...
The ultimate goal is to make calculations, that's
And
correct.
then you backdoor your way to scanner or whatever you're...
Correct. CD, there's a calculation for CD and then a reversal. Once you know CD, then it's trivial because you have CD e to the 2s value. You divide CD e to the 2s by CD, take the natural log, that gives you 2s, divide by 2, that gives you s. It's that simple. How high resolution is that s value going to be? Not very, because you're talking about, we misread it. We were at 1 times 10 to the 15th or 1 times 10 to the 10th. Of course, the natural log difference between those two really isn't all that much, but it is potentially significant. But fortunately, you've got a logarithm in your favor. Okay, so I confess, I jumped right into this, and I probably shouldn't have. Everybody is okay with this type curve?
Yeah, but where do we find the equation?
Live?
Where do we find the equation to follow?
They're there somewhere. Okay, so we have other models, and this is what J2 was asking. Here's the reservoir model, and we'll cover this, but here's a fractured well, J2. This one's damaged. This one's not. We keep walking down, there's some solutions. There's the type curve for the dimensionless pressure versus dimensionless time based on fracture half length. This is for a case with finite conductivity vertical fracture, and you see the issue there. We keep scrolling down, keep scrolling down, keep scrolling down, keep scrolling down. Type curve. There's your friend, right? There's the one for a boundary. There's the one for fault. There's the one for a fractured well.
Sorry, can you go back to the fault one again?
In this case, the dimensionless time has the dimensionless distance to the fault in it. That's your normalizing parameter. So you have all sorts of variants. The red is dimensionless pressure, and then the black is dimensionless pressure derivative. So what you'll see the derivative have a fixed value. It's a half here. I'm sorry, this is not a derivative, this is a beta function, which is the derivative, the function divided by the derivative. It's the derivative divided by delta P. Okay. And what that tells you is that for different kind of fault configurations, you have a different profile. Okay. So for a single fault, you have this kind of pressure derivative function, and then for this kind of fault, you have this kind. So your long-term behavior here is 1, your long-term behavior here is 2. So for a single fault, you double the pressure drop. For a double perpendicular fault, you quadruple the pressure drop. And then for these, for the parallel faults, you get something like this. And for the shoebox or horseshoe, you get something like that.
Your
Louder, sir.
sorry, what do you measure with the beta function you actually have?
All that was, forget the beta function for now, but it's just for orientation, so that you know, you're gonna match the derivative. That's generally the profile that you're gonna match, but the beta function would tell you what the ratio of the pressure derivative to the pressure drop is. It's not as strong a signal, I confess, but you should be able to see the signature from that. Okay. So what it's basically telling you is that horseshoe and parallel, they give you a signature that goes to a constant when you look at the beta derivative. The single fault and perpendicular fault, it goes to a constant at a certain time in the ordinary derivative. So what you're always looking for as a diagnostics person is either something that's constant or has a fixed slope. So, you know, everything we did in creating these functions was to try to either see a constant or a fixed slope. And you do have a fixed slope up here. So if you've got a fixed slope in the derivative, you're going to have a fixed slope in the pressure drop, so when you divide one by the other, you're going to get a constant relationship. So if you divide, if this case has a slope of 2, which it does because the rise over run is 1 block, 2 blocks, 1 block, so it's got a log slope of 2, or a power law slope of 2. The next function up, if you were to integrate it, would also have a power law function of 2. So that one divided by the other is just going to be the differential of the constant that separates them. If I have y prime equals ax to the 2, and I integrate that and divide it by time, or whatever the case may be, I'm going to get something like that, and then when I divide one by the other, it's going to cancel out, except for the constant. You're not following at all here. Okay, let's do it this way. How many of you like equation editor? How many of you like whatever this new piece of junk is? I like old school. You guys know old school? This is old school. Okay? Then it's like this. Okay. So what do I type then? Y is equal to ax to the 2, right? What's y prime, class?
2a.
Is that right? Well, I should say it this way. Man, this beard's starting to get on my nerves.
You should say,
Thank you. Next time I need a conscience, I'll let you know. Okay, so what is x times this?
2a.
Correct? Is that right? Okay, so now the beta function
Prime divided by y.
is going to be equal to y prime divided by y. Thank you. Sam 2, Sam 1, or Sam malicious. Okay. And that's equal to what?
2.
Correct? Hmm?
Every time.
What?
It shows me. It should be 2ax or x times y prime.
Y prime is
It shows me
x times 3y.
not.
I'll fix it, okay, girlfriend?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Good.
Is everybody happy now? Thank you, Abby. Abby just wanted to show up, be a teacher, and so disappointed. Okay, so the long-term behavior of this is 2. Yes, no?
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, the slope here is 1/2, not 2. So we gotta go back, we gotta fix this. Not what I wanted. I don't think I want to do it. So what's that gonna be?
Oh. Sure.
So it turns out that I'm really lazy. I think you can tell that, or? Is that correct? And then what happens when I multiply?
103 to the power of 1/2.
Is that right? Okay, so now I need to do this, which is still the same, and I need to do this. So, to quote Beavis and Butthead, what's the answer?
1/2.
Can we just wish it like that?
Hmm?
Can we just do that?
Do what?
Can we just wish it like that?
The definition. Help me out, Avi. You okay? You got this? You're okay, you're happy? No problem. Okay, so everybody sort of gets what it tells you is that the ratio of a power law function over its derivative is a constant. That's all that we're really trying to say. Okay? Always remember that the well testing derivative is x times dy dx. Okay. Johannes?
Yes.
Fracture well? Pressure function in black, pressure derivative in blue, beta in red. Why did we do beta here? Double.
What? Oh, it tells us, more definitively when the radio phase ends.
Actually, it doesn't really help us with radio flow in this case. Keep talking.
The deviation from straight,
Okay, so there's no wellbore storage. And there's also radial flow here. But the beta derivative function does not identify radial flow. What does it identify?
Transition.
It identifies power law behavior. Okay? What part of this is power law? Dennis? This is quarter slope? Are you sure?
1/4.
Yeah, that's about quarter slope.
We don't have any. Do we have any tools then?
You can go edit and take a snapshot.
Where's that straight line? Is this a straight line? Rise over run, 1/4, right?
Yeah.
Is that close enough?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a half, or that's a quarter. Oh, great. What's your favorite color? Blue on blue ain't gonna let you good. So I grab this guy and I move him over there. So that's half slope and this is quarter slope. half slope is infinite conductivity vertical fractures, quarter slope is finite conductivity vertical fractures. Johannes? Since I'm gonna get fired anyway. I'm at the tip of the fracture. Okay? The other side is the wellbore. I'm Speedy Gonzalez. Okay? So I need you to close your eyes. Okay? Now I'm at the wellbore. There's no pressure drop, there's no loss of energy. A particle of fluid moved from the tip of the fracture to the wellbore with no pressure drop. That's an infinite conductivity fracture. Okay? So now I'm the cousin. What's his name? Okay, I'm going, okay, I don't want to go, but I'm going to go. So, you know, it's a lot of work to get a particle of fluid down the fracture. All right? So, there's a pressure drop due to the reservoir, and there's a pressure drop due to the fracture. And if you don't like my speedy and slow poke, we can do something else. But I find that a little entertainment might help people memorize this. Infinite conductivity, no pressure drop, a particle of fluid moves from the tip of the fracture to the wellbore with no energy loss. Linear flow. Linear flow. This is important. If you forget everything else today, think about this. You're going to be out there looking at fractured wells, for sure. This is going to happen. And this is your signature. You are going to see this on the pressure response. You're either going to see infinite conductivity, which is the blue and black line here, or you're going to see finite conductivity. All right? And it's totally dependent upon how much fluid flow impediment there is in the fracture. If there's none, then it's infinite. If there's some, then it's finite. What's the possibility of generating a line of a slope other than these two?
Very good.
Try to think before you speak. Stop. You're not thinking, you're just talking. You're just guessing. I'm not going to call on you.
Could you repeat the question?
Okay, we have a definitive understanding of why we have a bilinear flow regime and a linear flow regime. Linear flow regime means no pressure drop in the fracture. Bilinear flow regime means there's a distinct relationship. The only pressure drop during linear flow is the formation coming into the fracture. The pressure drop during bilinear flow is the formation coming in and the fracture itself. Can it have both? No. It either has to be one or the other. Technically, there is a region back here, way back here at ultra small time, where it could have both, but you're never going to see it. It's not even within the realm of your imagination. But there is a part of the solution that says that you would have linear flow deploying. If the fracture were to unload first, it would have linear flow because it's linear. But it happens so quickly, it's gone. So everything that we're seeing is linear flow from the formation into the fracture, not in the fracture itself. But if the fracture is packed with sand, then it's going to take a while, and they're going to be in competition with each other. So linear flow is square root, linear flow in the fracture, linear flow in the formation. Multiply them together, you get a quarter root. Okay? Is there a possibility of having another slope besides 1/2 or besides 1/4? Yes, Jeffrey.
From your explanation, I would say no. My intuition was that I used an analogy to say the daily moduli, and it'll be convoluted, but it.
You realize it's being recorded.
Okay.
So, yes or no? Explain. I'm not trying to press you. I'm trying to say that thinking out loud is fine. But you have an obligation to the other students to either come to the point or stop. Because you're not making a point. You do realize that. You're thinking about this. Can you come to terms with something that would cause this? Could there be variable conductivity?
Right, I mean, there is.
Think about it. Yes.
I feel like there couldn't, judging by this, because a quarter is the steepest you're gonna get.
Okay. Quarter is the shallowest.
Shallow, sorry.
Yeah.
Other way around.
Half is the steepest. Half is always the steepest.
Right.
Even if there were no impediment whatsoever, and if you went and looked at the equation for permeability in a crack, you can't get any higher than this. Okay? The question is, can you get between these two? And I already alluded to the answer. Or did I? Yes.
No, because the transition time would be so small, you cannot measure it.
The transition time for what?
Linear to bilinear. I mean, linear to dual.
Okay, so at least with this model, and I'm emphasizing this model, where the behavior is either infinite or non-infinite, let's say, there's only two outcomes. It either has finite conductivity signature or it has linear, it either has infinite or the blue down here, this is, all of these converge here. You can see that they're coming into their own. There's an analog regime. That's high conductivity. Over here, all of these are bilinear. How could you get another slope in there? Yes? You're the only one raising your hand.
Okay, well, since the controlling factor is the permeability of the fracture versus the permeability of the
Not
medium.
permeability, it's
No,
conductivity.
conductivity of the fracture.
We cannot talk only in terms of permeability. We have to talk about the permeability multiplied by the width. That's a critical element. Not to correct you, but it's Millard RCT. The permeability of the material in the fracture is how high?
Very, very high.
How high?
Infinite. 1 times 10 to the 6.
Darcy? That high?
Bill Darcy.
All right. So it's probably about 20 Darcy, given sandbag. And it'll get lower and lower the smaller you use, but it's on the order of a very high number. Okay? So what we do is we multiply the width and we divide by the formation permeability and the fracture half length. That's the definition of fracture conductivity, and that's what you see published there as the CFCs. Okay? So those are dimensionless fracture conductivity. It's the permeability in the fracture times the width of the fracture divided by the permeability and formation divided by the length of the fracture. Okay? So the question comes back, and I think Jeffrey's trying to get onto this, is there any way you could have a 1/3 slope?
You've certainly got a region in between.
Right, but how? I mean, this model cannot produce a 1/3 slope. It's either infinite conductivity or finite conductivity. I don't know what the answer is for this case. I'm just trying to guide you that you should not expect to see something different. Now, the key to this graph is there's no storage. There's no Wellbore storage. So we're talking about totally undistorted data. That's not possible. The next slides are all distorted with Wellbore storage, and we'll talk about that in a second. But these slides are not, or these cases are not distorted. Okay? We have to talk about them first, because the next thing we'll do is add storage to it. And by the way, if you think you understand type curves, permeability is still on the y-axis, fracture half length is on the x-axis, the family parameter, which is the conductivity, is on here. If we add storage, that's another variable, right? You can only have 3. One on the x, one on the y, and one on the family parameter. What happens when you add another variable? You're going to have a different page, right? You're going to have a different graph for a given case. That's the only way to do it with a two-dimensional piece of paper. You guys understand?
What is W in this case?
W is fracture width. Is that what your word is,
Yeah.
W?
That,
Yes.
so,
WKS times, divided by KXS.
we're essentially trying to find W when we are...
No, we never try to reverse calculate the fracture permeability of the fracture or the fracture width. Well, we will try to reverse calculate WXS, or WKS, pardon me. We will not try to break it down, because you don't know what the width is. The width is an unknown. And obviously the width is larger at the wellbore than it is at the tip, because the tip means it's basically going to zero. All I'm really trying to pound on you here is that for fractured wells, or for horizontal multi-fracture wells, which are going to be superpositions of fracture wells, what regime do you expect to see? Either slope of a half or a slope of a quarter. What if I told you see a slope of a third?
The conductivity ratio is somewhere where neither is controlling.
Right, but this particular model only allows what? It only allows either a finite conductivity or an infinite conductivity. Okay, Dennis, do you see anywhere on here where it's a third? I mean, if you're not careful, you could say you see a third, but you don't. And the way to look at this is here we're at a half and here we're at a quarter, so if it were a third, the trend would be somewhere in the 1/3 region for that ratio function. It's impossible for this particular model to generate a 1/3 response. I just want that out on the table. Without something else. What else could it be? There may be a slight artifact regime where wellbore storage is, but probably not.
I'm a little confused. Which color plot are you exactly matching?
Okay, so in this case, we now have a low conductivity solution, a CFD of 1, right? And we now have wellbore storage applied to it, okay? So this is a low fracture conductivity case with a CFD of 1. It does have wellbore storage. This is 1-to-1. So what happens when you have a number over itself? What do you get? You get 1. Then you have a transfer function. And then in the long run, you have a quarter slope. Where's the quarter slope? Right here. That's 0.25. Okay. So this is a low conductivity case, and it shows wellbore storage in the beta derivative, and it shows finite conductivity in the beta derivative. So for your brain, all I want you to realize is that for different fractured well cases, there'll be different type curves or different renderings. This case is a low conductivity case. This case is a medium conductivity case. Okay? So you guys, any of you work on frac crews? Work on fracture design? No? So what happens is, in historical perspective, they used to design for an FCD of, a CFD of 10, and they would probably get a 1 because it's very difficult to deploy what you design. Okay? So this was generally the design criteria that they would design for 10, but you'd probably get somewhere between 1 and 5. You're not going to get better than what you design. I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so in this case, we see something that looks like bilinear flow, and then we see something that looks like linear flow. So this is an unusual case in that it appears that possibly here's the possible linear flow and here's the possible bilinear flow curve. So this one may have something, maybe, probably not, but maybe. And then we have the high conductivity case, and the high conductivity case goes to a half. Here it has this part, of course, 1 for the Wellbore storage, and it comes up and over. What I really need you to think about is when you're looking at a fractured well, you no longer use the Bourdais radial flow curve, you have to use these. And you're going to have to test it on each one to see which one it fits best on. The process is identical, but you have to think, okay, I have a low conductivity type curve with wellbore storage, I have a medium conductivity type curve with wellbore storage, I have a high conductivity type curve with wellbore storage, so I'm going to match on those. And just for grins, do you think you're going to, well, I mean, you can tell by the shape of this, it doesn't look anything like that well test I showed you earlier. Because that well test is not for a fractured well. A fractured well generally has a very strong signature. Generally. So the only way we would see something out of the ordinary is if somehow the system as we imagined it is not correct. Okay? So far we've looked at radial flow cases and we've looked at fractured wells. What's the flow path around the fractured well going to look like? Yes?
This is in the right place. We didn't look at mixing effects.
We haven't modeled that. The right answer is that if you see something that doesn't look like what you expected, it must be another factor that you hadn't considered. I'm not saying that you couldn't see wellbore storage as a component. It's just that it'll probably be an artifact if you do. Let's take this as an example. I'll come over here, I'll draw a line. Okay, so there's a 1/3 slope line. Where does this match? Nowhere. Okay. So the likelihood of it being 1/3 is pretty small. That was my point. Okay. So what are the flow regimes around a normal unfractured well, Dennis? So we'll have something not linear, radial. Okay. So that's what we expect. Now let's have a fractured well. So I made it black. Okay, there's the fraction. Here's the wellbore. What are the profiles going to look like again?
This is a linear going here.
Okay, so the flux is going to come into it like this, perpendicular to it. This is the flux in the reservoir. Now, if the permeability is low enough, there will be a flux in the wellbore that's non-infinite. That would be bilinear flow. Okay. I shouldn't say non-infinite. There will be a flux that is not that has a pressure drop. All right. So we continue flowing in time. What's going to happen next?
Turn to radial.
Okay. So now we're going to start having non-linear flux lines. Does somebody want to tell me when linear or bilinear flow ends?
When R is
It's
very
whenever
bigger like that.
you start seeing the tip effect. That's when that happens. So the transition that we were talking about back here on this curve, the transition when we come out of linear or bilinear flow, that's when you start seeing the tip effect. Okay? Yes,
The tip effect
is when flow turns a corner, okay? So before it was acting like it was linear, there was no real flux around the tip. And then whenever you do get flux around the tip, it's a conversion point and it causes that behavior. And eventually, what happens is you get what's called pseudo-radial flow.
Is that region where your PDD converges to one value?
Sorry?
Is it that region where your PDD converges to
Go
one
ahead, yep. Are you gonna see pseudo-radial flow?
Well, probably not.
3 options, yes, no, or maybe.
No,
Not with the time you're.
depends on the conductivity.
Very good, depends on the permeability. Okay. High permeability, we see it?
No,
Yep.
what?
High permeability, you'll see radial flow, low permeability, won't.
Well, permeability of the formation.
Yes, sorry, I'm not talking about conductivity.
High permeability, see it.
Things happen faster with high permeability.
It also shrinks the time so that for detection. Okay, you're talking about unconventional.
No, I'm talking about normal. The higher the permeability, the faster it'll go to pseudo-radial flow.
Sorry, can you go back to the no Wellbore storage?
No Wellbore source curve, okay.
But also,
Let him finish.
For the for the beta one, you have only from 0.25 to 0.5, but
Right.
what about the other one? You go up to 125.
Okay, well, the black curves are the pressure drop curves. The blue curves are the derivative curves. It goes to a half there.
Yeah, but they have the same CFD value. The CFD values for the black curve.
The CFD, this behaves like a radial flow with skin. All of these derivatives converge to the same value here. Why? Because you're in pseudo-radial flow. The fracture is now ignored by the system. The fracture is now a skin factor. Once you get to radial flow, the dimensions of the fracture are no longer relevant. That's the whole purpose of the discussion.
Before you get to radial flow.
Before you get to the radial flow, the fracture controls everything. After you get to radial flow, it just treats the fracture, the flux caused by the fracture, the flux influenced by the fracture is just not relevant. The only thing that's relevant is this giant convergent radial flow regime. The fracture is still there, still producing, it still behaves, but the pressure system, the pressure propagation has moved well beyond the fracture.
So
the fracture behaves like a skin factor. A time-dependent skin factor.
if we compare the plot, let's say for the derivative, you can get a CFD value of 1,000 in the fracture region.
And it's down here.
Right.
This is the CFD of 1,000 for the tube. That's obviously linear flow. This is the linear flow chart. I think you've got yourself tied up in a knot here. Just think about it like this. Low conductivity, quarter slope. High conductivity, half slope. If you see radial flow, then the fracture itself is no longer the majority influence. It just behaves like a skin. It's just an extra pressure drop. It still is the conduit of the fluid to the wellbore, but it's not as important as what's going on further away. And frankly, this is how people like to reference this back in the 50s and 60s. They liked conceiving of a fractured well like a skin factor. I hate to tell you guys this, but I'm out of gas.
No, you're not, I think you answered my question.
Do I get paid per question?
You got your get out of jail free card, too.
I'm gonna keep it till later. Thanks for reminding me of that. Anybody else got a get out of jail free card? Yes, go ahead, sir.
Okay. For high permeability, it would allow you to see these transitions, but it will also shorten the window of
Correct, they
pseudo
all
radial.
happen much faster.
Right, so then wouldn't you get into measurements? I mean, well, my first question is how long do you scale that, like pseudo radial, how long is that?
Pseudo-radial flow probably can occur within less than 100 hours for some cases.
Okay,
For
because
some cases, high enough permeability,
because my concern was that it will
3 or
shorten
4
the window
days, you know.
so much that you can't measure it.
Oh, no, that wouldn't happen. A frac pack maybe. A frac pack is a very high permeability fracture treatment, very short, very contained. You could probably get past the frac pack in a day or so. Yes, sir.
So you won't be seeing it in the shell formations that are being fractured now?
These regions? Yes, you'll see exactly.
No, the pseudo-radial.
Oh, no, never. Thank you. So, when we were talking about that this morning, that'd be your SRB, and you're not gonna see that. You're not gonna see a well test that captures the SRB. And if you do, you need to work on your resume. If something bad's about to happen.
But assuming that it exists, the next plot, so this one can stretch so that the derivatives
Okay,
converge.
so these cases are all without storage. So the next plot that one, not that one. This is a low conductivity fracture solution. So imagine one curve. Only here. It's only, there's not a trade school in Adobe, right? No. Okay, so what I would try to do how did I end up with this?
No, because that's smart ink.
Hmm?
Because that's smart ink.
Thank you. All right, so what I'm going to do now, Sam, is I'm going to trace out, unfortunately, it's not so easy to explain, but I'm going to trace out the type curve that I want. I'm going to use the CFT of 1 case. Now, this is the derivative, not the pressure drop function. For some reason, we don't have that. Favorite color? Okay, so there's the type curve for that. I'm going to take that model, of course this is derivative, not pressure, but I'm going to take that model and I'm going to create this type curve. Okay? You don't understand?
No. Where are you gonna?
Okay, so there's only one underlying root model for pressure here, and that's the CFD1 case. And then we add storage to it, which paints the page different colors with the number of possible combinations. But the underlying behavior is the PD solution for CFD of equal 1. Okay, that's how we've drawn it here. So imagine now you have a low conductivity type curve. You have a medium and you have a high. Okay? So your first pass during the diagnostic phase, you'll be able to tell whether or not you have low, medium, or high conductivity based on the derivative.
Because they'll have this kind of,
It'll have some sort of a signature that it will explain. Here you can see the half slope trend. This is not a half slope, this is a one-third slope. So you can see the half slope trends right there, right there, right there. Right there. Okay? So there's your half slope trend. So this tells you high conductivity. Nobody's asking why I called these the economy type curves. No.
she invented it?
No, it was actually her husband had made a plot, and nobody likes naming things after themselves, so whenever I created these, I was looking around to make sure that it had been done before. I just called them fractured well type curves, and then I realized somebody had made a plot, so his name. Okay, what comes after fractured wells?
Horizontal?
That would be a good choice, but horizontal wells will unscrew your brain, take it out, stomp on it, put it back inside your head. Horizontal wells have how many possible combinations? An infinite number of combinations. So they're painful. If Dr. Ottocan were here, the father of horizontal well solutions, he'd say, it's not that bad. You can see this regime, that regime. But it is very difficult to match a well test in a horizontal well using diagnostics. You can identify a couple of things, and then you're going to have to use regression. So horizontal wells are not part of this course.
Regression as in physical regression?
Yes, solver type analysis. This is a dual porosity or naturally fractured reservoir. So you move from the fractured well to the fractured reservoir. Okay. Like I say, I'm dead. So if you don't mind, I'll stop. All right, we'll see you tomorrow night at 8, and tomorrow at noon. And I probably will not do your assignment out until Thursday or Friday, or your exam, or whatever it is.
If you put it out Thursday or Friday, what day do you think it might be due?
Just don't hold me to anything right now.
Okay.
What I'm going to say is my best guess is no later than Saturday.
Okay.
But also, I canceled my travel. I'll stay here, and I will go over the exam with you, probably video-wise, Thursday or Friday or Saturday. I know what I want to do. I just don't know how easy it's going to be. I always start an exam from scratch. I always work out the exam in complete detail. Sorry, exam or problem. I do them both the same way. So I'll have to check everything. But then we'll go over it, and then it'll be here. And just so there's no confusion, whether it's an exam or an assignment, the work must be done in isolation. I am your conduit. You can talk to me. I'm a little bit reluctant to say you can't talk on the discussion board because that sort of removes your collaborative spirit. But it is an exam. If you're to share material or work, I will figure it out because I do the grading. And you will not like the side of me that you see if you do that. You're graduate students. You're competing against yourself, not against each other. I want to see your best work, regardless of the mechanism we use. So, we have 40 people in this class, 30-something distance learning people. I understand that's difficult, it's abstract, it's high-paced, all this other stuff. But I made a decision to stay here, walk you through this, to make sure that everything works right. It'll be fun. Do not disappoint me. Okay? do your own work. Okay. I'm gonna shut down unless you tell me to.
Well, I'll fix it. Because there's always tomorrow.
There's that thought. Then, I'm gonna need to email this to myself. Actually, could you email this to me?
Sure.
Do you have a webmail mechanism?
Those are in the C drive up here, so if you log on to your account on the computer, then it should still.
Right? Not
Yeah,
you.
but there's a difference. I don't want people to see me going into email. Or you don't want to see people see you
No,
either?
I don't mind.
All right. The file is here. Okay.
No one has time.
Any other questions?
When you're using this, single group, how
You
do
do not use that for now.
No, you're
No,
not.
you'll never have a case that doesn't have storage. All that is for orientation. You must use, something for now.
Then wouldn't
You must do something with Wellbore storage. Sorry.
Yeah, then we just be measuring the slope of your, derivative, that's all you need to.
Right,
be
but
able to
it'll be on here. There'll still be a quarter slope there. There'll still be a quarter slope there. There's a parent half slope there. There's definitely a half slope there. Okay?
Okay.
So you can utilize that.
Dr. Blasingame, which email do you want me to send?
This is T minus. That's fine. That's anything that has one there. You'll have to load it, you can't copy and paste.
Yeah, I was gonna copy that.
Oh, okay, great, thank you. Very good, thank you very much, Steve.
You're welcome. No problem.
You're okay with that answer?
Yeah. I thought we were.
I think it's very likely you're gonna see a fractured well. You got it. Okay, we gotta turn the screen. Was somebody at Blasingame after us, Darla Jean?
No. No, sorry, this Thursday.
Only Thursday.
No,
Okay, I'll double check, thank you. No, I just wanna make sure.